What's up everyone, Steve and Jim back with Ziggy's Lawn and Landscape. Today we are beside my 2020 KX71 Kubota mini excavator. We're going to show you everything you need to know about this machine, which will transfer over to pretty much any mini excavator, and what you need to look for when you're buying one of these things. Going over the drivetrain, the hydraulics, the bucket, the tracks. Now, but also aside from that, the business aspect of when do I need a mini excavator? When should I stop renting a mini excavator? When should I just look into buying my own and financing one or buying one straight up? You can find some good deals on Facebook Marketplace to buy one for cash if you don't need the best one in the world to start off with. But if you're looking for a more reliable machine, a little bit bigger, you're probably going to be looking into financing. How do you get to that point? We're going to cover all that in this video. But we'll start off by going over the machine. If you pretend you're going to look at one in person, of course if you're buying a new one, this doesn't really apply because it has a warranty, and you just want to make sure you know your brands and what you're looking for. But if it's brand new, there's nothing to really check. But most likely you're watching this because you're going to be looking at a used excavator. The drivetrain is the most important part of these machines, obviously, because of how expensive they are to replace. We're going to go over the tracks, just the pistons and the hydraulics and all the lines and stuff. All little wear items that can be switched that may cost a lot but might not, but basically the drivetrain is the most concerning. So this is a 2020, like we said, it's a KX71 mini excavator. I think this thing weighs 7,000 pounds or something, somewhere around there. It's not the biggest one, it's not the smallest one, it's right in the middle. This one has a 2-foot bucket on it. In my opinion, I would look for just regular digging, get an 18-inch bucket or a 16-inch. This one came with a 2-foot bucket. It's a little bit too big for certain areas, I guess. If you're putting downspouts in the ground, the bucket's a little bit too wide, digs a little bit too much. But I don't know, we'll go around the machine. You want to obviously just check it for wear and tear, depending how old it is. You want to check for rust or rot. You got like on this, it depends on which brand you're buying, but for Kubota, they have a rubber floor mat. Yeah, it's just wet, it's solid. You want to check around here for, this thing is obviously a excavator, so it spins in a circle. Most of them are, some of them I'd say are zero tail swing, which means the corners of these do not overhang the tracks when you turn the boom around. I'll just show real quick. This is not a zero tail swing, so this one overhangs the tracks, hence the scuff marks in some spots. If you're working up against brush or little trees or whatever, little bushes, wherever you're digging or whatever, we'll just show real quick. When you turn, you're overhanging the width of the actual tracks, so the dimensions are wider when you're turned one way or the other. If you can get a zero tail swing one, it's nice because you know the width of the tracks is literally as wide as the machine will ever be. Obviously not the arm, but the actual operator's thing that you sit on right here. We'll check out, basically it's like a car. You're going to buy a car, a lawnmower, anything with an engine. You want to check all the fluids, see if it had a maintenance history, the maintenance records, if the oil, the color, the hydraulic fluid, all that good stuff. So this one has a key to lock the back door and the side door, obviously for people trying to steal fuel or steal whatever. This is the engine compartment back here. So we'll unlock this. There's the lever, automatically holds itself up. You want to check the condition of the door also. It sounds stupid. If you're getting a great price for the machine you're looking at, might be no big deal, but some of these doors are sometimes so mangled up they don't even open and they don't even close and latch properly. But here we are, 4-cylinder Kubota diesel. We have all our filters and everything here. We have our air filter. You're going to want to check that because these things are obviously digging in the dirt. Yeah. And when there's no rain, it's very, very dusty.
I was going to say that when you take a look under here, look at just the condition of like the spin-on filter, the inline filter and stuff like that. If there's whatever's on your machine, because yeah, the machine works in the dirt, dirt's going to end up there. And if they haven't changed the filters in a while, you got to keep up on them.
Yeah. So like we said, check the bumpers, check the sides of it. Yeah, you can replace the bumper. Who knows if you can find a used one. If it's no big deal, you can just paint it. But just make sure it didn't damage any of the actual drivetrain or motor mounts, like someone didn't whack into something really hard. This thing only has 400 hours on it. That's why it's in such great shape. We got it with about 200 hours, I think 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We haven't put a ton of hours on it, but when we dig out, we're basically just using this to dig out for our pavers and our retaining walls. The digging is the quick part, and then the skid steer is used to run all the material in. So this is just used for digging stuff out. And it's got a fuel water separator on, I'm gonna say most diesels, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much every brand will have a fuel water separator. There's nothing you can really do in terms of checking it, just to make sure it's not black. This one's clean. You can almost see, not see through it, but it's not like filled with black soot or anything. Some of them have dates written on the filters when they were changed. I know for a fact we change this every spring, regardless if we meet the hours or not, and we don't meet the hours, the recommendation for the maintenance interval. Your fuel pump, you're going to want to turn your key on and make sure your electric fuel pump's running. Here's your coolant overflow bottle. Your radiator's on the other side, but basically you're going to want to check your engine oil. That's the most important thing for the motor in terms of viewing it in person. You're not able to take the whole machine apart while you're on site, but you can check the fluid. So check your oil for sure. You're going to check your air filter, your fuel filters. Make sure they're not rusted on and they look like they haven't been changed in forever, because fuel is also one of the biggest killers nowadays with modern diesels and even older diesels. That just the fuel quality has gone down. So just make sure that the filters look like they were somewhat changed. That's all I can think about back here on this machine. We'll open up the side door.
Yeah.
And we'll still go into depth of everything else. I guess while we're standing here, this one has the front dozer blade. Some of them have angled dozer blades where you can hit a button and it'll hydraulically turn left or right. The old one we had that, but you just want to check the condition of this. Were they ramming into boulders with it, where it's so bent? I mean, this one has one little bend here, but it's straight. It's not twisted up in here or anything that could, it's not like the frame is bent or anything, but check that out. While you're here, check the hydraulic lines, check the piston for this thing, the hydraulic piston. Make sure it's not leaking. We'll go over everything you need to know about these pistons in a second. But while we're here on the side, you have your other door. This will contain, on the Kubotas, this has the fuel tank, the battery, and the hydraulic fluid reservoir, which you can see right through the side cutout in these Kubotas. Most machines are like this also. You can check your hydraulic oil level. I don't know, what do you have to add about hydraulic fluid?
Yeah, I mean, if you're running it dry, you're destroying all the hydraulic components, basically.
The seals and everything
Yeah,
internal.
you're putting pressure on the pistons.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
These things are meant to dig, pick up dirt, rocks. This one has the claw on it, the hydraulic thumb. Everything relies on this level of fluid being full. So you want to just check it, and if it's not full, then you're going to want to do some further investigating of operating the machine, spinning it, checking everything that involves hydraulics to see if you hear growling or gurgling or almost like a humming noise when you're spinning. And there's also grease points. We'll go over that in a second. But
yeah,
your fuel, I mean, if you're here, like we said, fuel quality has gone down from fuel stations. You want to check. This one has a screen to catch anything that's crappy, but you want to check in there. You can see in ours, we have a couple little specks of dirt that have gone past the screen. We have actually had this whole tank out last year at only 300 something hours. Took the whole side of the machine apart because there was just a buildup of crappy fuel from the, I guess this was a rented out machine for the first 200 hours of its life. And sometimes you fill up in town locally where they're not really moving the diesel that much. It kind of sits in the tanks and it builds up crud. That's where there's two separate filters on this thing to catch it before it gets to the injectors. But that's a side note. You got your radiator. Did we go over that yet? It's right here.
And just
also.
make sure that they're not dinged or dented or banged up or leaking.
Yeah, another hydraulic cooler. All your coolers will probably be right in the same spot, but like I said, if they banged into something, it could be dented, could be making it not cooled properly. So you want to check all that out. That's pretty much it on this side.
Yeah, obviously treat it like a vehicle. Look for leaks. They're gonna shine it up before they sell it to you. Yep. So definitely look past just the shiny paint on the side and look for leaks. And it's basically your basic looking over a car is what you're after here.
You're checking out the paint too. I mean, it's a machine. It's used for work, but you want to make sure, like, you know, if you're buying something for say $5,000, you're going to get what you pay for. in terms of a mini excavator. If you're buying something for 20, 30, 40 grand, you want the paint to kind of look like this, where it's in really good shape, other than this just needs some touching up, because this is from me. This is from both of us running this thing at paver jobs in tight spaces where, like we said, the zero tail swing. The tracks will be here, we'll be up against some brush or something, and it's just from scuffing or whatever, in the woods, bumping up against some trees or whatever when we're clearing out some land or whatever. That's your basic drivetrain on these things. You can check out, you want to check out where you're going to be sitting most of the time.
I'll come up over here, yeah.
This is not an enclosed unit, so there's no glass, there's no heat, there's no air conditioning, so this is out in the weather. We keep it covered. They're waterproof, so you don't have to keep them covered, but you want to check the condition of the seat. The seat's in really good shape here. It has no rips or tears. You want to check the instrument cluster. Make sure there's no cracks in here, because this is watertight, but if there's a crack in it, obviously water's going to be getting down into this. You want to just make sure before you even start it. First, before you even start it, check all the fluids. When it's on level ground, we're on a hill, so there's no need to check the fluids now, but make sure this thing is not started if possible, and then if it has been started, make sure you let it sit for a couple minutes and just check the levels. Make sure that everything is accurate with the fluid. Basically where you're sitting, you have two different controls. I want to call them, I think, cat controls, and I know what they're called if I read it real quick, but you can switch the controls on this on how you operate the machine. This is going to drive your tracks forwards, reverse, just like a zero-turn mower or a lawnmower, but you can manually switch. I think it's this valve right here.
Okay.
Up or down. So the way we have it set up now is that left and right will spin us around, up and down will lift the arm up and down, and then this one will curl the bucket and set the arm out and in. But you can switch it the other way if you're used to the way you operate it. This one specifically has the dozer blade, so we have this to lift and lower the dozer blade. This is 2-speed, so you can drive. Speed number 1 is slow, crawling. Speed number 2 is if you're on a straightaway and you're not looking to take all day, you can hit the green button and go. But we haven't even started it yet. We're still just checking everything out. Once you get done checking out up here, just make sure everything is free. If it's rusted and stuff is getting stuck, that'll be a question mark. Have they been greasing it? Have they been keeping up with it? Or has this thing been sitting underneath a tree just collecting pollen and dirt and rain and everything? As much as you can, you're going to want to, now once you checked all your fluids, you're going to check out the hydraulic pistons. We'll get to the lines in a second, or you can check the lines as you're going. So for example, here's the piston, here's the seal. Nice and dry, nice and clean. The piston arm, the ram arm is in very good shape. There's no rust. If there's rust on an excavator arm, pretty much run away. You know it's been leaking, rainwater, rust. Rust is not a good sign on an excavator in terms of hydraulic components.
Depending on price.
Depending on the price, of course.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay top dollar, you're going to want it to be in really good shape. You're going to want to check the condition of the teeth on the bucket. They can be changed. You can buy a new bucket, but just once again, it depends on how much you're spending on the machine. The teeth on this thing are in great shape. You got the hydraulic thumb, which also has its own piston. Some of them won't have it, so if you don't have one on the machine you're looking at, disregard this. But once again, piston here, you got a piston here. You want to check for leaks. You want to check the seals. You want to just make sure everything's in good shape. So start it up and move the arm. Extend it in and out. Curl the bucket in and up and down. Make sure all the fittings nice and tight. This has play because it's a hydraulic arm, but make sure that the lines are tight. There's hydraulic lines throughout the whole entire machine. So if you have to replace just this line, no big deal. If you have to replace this line, no big deal. It's all accessible. Some of them might be a little bit more tough underneath if they have a gash in it, but once again, use your judgment, and you're getting what you pay for. So take your time and really look this thing over. This is an investment into your business. Pistons can be taken apart and sent to piston shops and rebuilt, so it's not the biggest deal if one or two. If they all do, you have to maybe negotiate on the price a little bit more. But another thing is tracks. Tracks are very expensive. They're easy to install, but they're expensive and they're heavy. So you want to check the condition of your tracks. These are in very good shape. 400 hours they should be. You don't want to have any chunks missing out of them. Some of these machines may have way higher hours than ours. Ours is, like we said, used sparingly for paver patios and retaining walls. So we don't have, this machine, 3 years old, should have 2,000, 2,500 hours, maybe more. We baby it and we just use it for when we need it. But you want to check the condition of the tracks. basically just make sure that they're not ready to fall off, because they need to be properly tensioned. And once again, everything on this machine costs a lot of money to replace, minus hoses and little stuff like that, batteries, little stuff like that. But in terms of, like I said, buckets, tracks, the engine, hydraulic component, everything costs money. Now that we've looked the whole machine over, check the grease fittings real quick too. Everything has grease. Just see if it's wet, like it's been greased its whole life, or if it's completely bone dry and it might not take any grease. You're gonna have to do some working to maybe replace the grease fittings or get them to work again. You're gonna want to check underneath. You got your one tie down for the chain, but you're gonna want to check under here. Yeah, we have a little bit of dirt buildup, but you want to make sure that this thing is all free to turn. There's nothing stuck in here. There's no roots, there's no rocks. Yeah, a little bit of dirt won't hurt. It's an excavator, but you want to check underneath here and check the condition. Did they drive over boulders and the frame is bent up? While you're down here, you can also check in here. Is there, yep, there's a little bit of dirt buildup in this, but it's an excavator. You want to make sure it's not clogged solid with dirt. That's going to prohibit the tracks from actually turning, and maybe the idler's turning, just like an idler pulley for a serpentine belt on a car. These things have idler pulleys to make sure that the tracks stay lined up. You want to make sure everything is free. Depending where you're looking at this machine, you can now start it up, make sure it runs fine, make sure there's no knocks or smokes or anything, or smoking from the engine.
Make sure it starts up in the cold if it is cold.
Yeah, this is a diesel one. I know there are some gasoline excavators. You're going to want to let the glow plugs run, and then once it's running, every decimal point on the hour meter is 6 minutes, meaning this has 403.8 hours on it. So if it's possible for you to let it run for at least 6 minutes to get to 403.9, you know that the hour meter is working. This one's a digital hour meter, but sometimes people try to roll hours back, just like miles on a car, just to whatever, screw over people and get more money. So if you can let this thing even idle while you're talking and looking it over, that's a good thing too, to just make sure that the hour meter works. If it doesn't move, then you got problems. So you know this thing has more hours than it actually really does, that it's showing. So now you'll be able to start it up, you'll be able to check all the hydraulic components in and out, spin the machine around, run it back and forth, make sure there's no grinding underneath or out front. Make sure all the controls are very responsive. When you say go to pick the arm up, make sure it goes right up. It doesn't lag or sound like it's trying to send fluid to it, because if it is, the reservoir is low or there's air in the system. So we'll just start it up. It'll start right up because we just drove it up here. You want to idle it low. Check the condition of the exhaust pipe. Make sure it's not smoking. Make sure it idles okay. Now this machine is ours. We know everything there is to know about this. Everything is in perfect shape. So we'll just go through and come real quick. What we're going to do too is we'll be able to check the conditions of the tracks. So, and then we'll also check the hydraulic pressure, I guess you want to say. But if you have a friend looking at it with you, you'll be able to check the tracks, the tension on the tracks. You might be able to do it by yourself. So for example, if you're in a guy's brand new paver driveway and he has the excavator parked on it, don't do this. Maybe find somewhere on the road to check this, but you can easily do what we're about to do here. Now we have the machine off the ground on just this side. Like I said, it's our own driveway, so we don't care if we scuff it up a little bit. Maybe you can put the bucket in the guy's yard or wherever you're buying this from, or even on the side or on a piece of wood or something, just to apply pressure. Number one, this shows that the hydraulics and the arm are in good shape and they're working well, because it's able to lift the weight of the whole machine up. Don't put your foot underneath here. Don't lay underneath here, but just check. You're able to check and make sure that the tracks, you want to check all the tensioners, that they're not seized and that they all work. There's 3 on the bottom, they move completely fine. Inside this case is when you get home, or if you do end up purchasing the machine, this is where you're going to be greasing the track from. So greasing the track is going to apply the tension to it. So you don't want it too loose, you don't want it too tight. Too tight's going to ruin these tensioners and possibly your the teeth and the gears and stuff. But when you grease it, it's going to push a piston out. We'll come to this side. This is part of regular maintenance, just like owning a lawnmower, a leaf blower, a vehicle. Grease points, they're very important. Right here we have the proper amount of tension because we keep up with the maintenance on this. When you take this off, you can stick a standard grease gun in here. We'll show right in this box here, and this will push this. This is almost like another idler pulley that will push out and apply more tension to the track, give or take, depending on what you're looking for. I don't know the exact specs, but you want to make sure that this has room between the tensioner and the track right now. You don't want everything so compact. What you can also do while you're in this position, depending where you're located, if you can do this, while you're in it or while you're out of it, you're able to, you're able to run the track. You can also see this way to make sure everything is spinning like it should. Again, this hasn't moved, so we know that the hydraulics in the arm are good, at least for now, while you're at the person's house still looking for it. We're gonna check the other side. We'll check the blade in the front, then we'll check the other side. Once again, this will check the hydraulics in the front dozer blade just to make sure that that works. And now once it's fully extended out, you'll be able to see more of the piston. Once again, check the seals, check the hoses, make sure everything's in good shape, check the grease fittings. We're going to swing over to the other side. We'll basically be able to check the same thing on the other track. Now that you've checked, you want to come a little closer. Now that you've checked out your tracks, you've checked out your engine, you've checked out the hydraulic reservoir and the components and whatnot, spin it around completely. Make sure there's no binding. Like we showed underneath, there's nothing stuck. And we'll be able to just rotate the arm in and out. Hopefully all this information is helpful so far. Like we said, this is a newer machine, so there's not too much to go wrong at this point. But like we said, now that the arm is actually down, you can check up top. You can see this piston. Make sure the seal's in good shape once again. If you get anything out of this video, fluid levels, seals, lines, and tracks, and rust, and just your normal other stuff. But those are the main focus things. Also, bring your dog with you for the purchase. It'll help you make a better decision. Where else do we kind of covered everything. So if, like we said, if you're at a dealership and you're financing a brand new machine, the price is going to be what it's going to be, and there's nothing to check for. It's brand new. Make sure you have a warranty. If you're buying a pre-owned machine, it could still have a warranty if you're buying it from a dealer, but most likely if you guys are buying like a Facebook marketplace, like a used machine, a little bit higher hours, 2,000 hours is nothing to be scared of. It just needs to make sure that the price reflects what you're buying and the condition of the machine. These Kubota diesel engines can just run forever, meaning 5, 10,000, 15,000 hours, depending if the fluids were kept up with. Tracks are replaceable, pistons are replaceable, so it just, once again, it just depends on what you're paying for it. If you're getting it from the dealer, they're going to know the history on it, or I mean, like the Kubota dealer is going to know everything about it. They're going to give you a warranty, even if it's a year or two old, like I got on this one. But if you're buying a $5,000, $10,000 machine for cash, you're going to get what you pay for, but just do your homework and look at some of the things we've talked about in this video. I think that pretty much covers the machine, but I guess it comes time where, all right, I'm getting sick and tired of renting one of these every single week that I need one. It costs me $300 a week to rent. Okay, well, maybe now it's definitely time to start looking into financing. Number one, how do you get the financing? And number two, when does it make sense to do the financing? Like we just said, if you're renting this more than it costs a month to own, it's just common sense to end up purchasing one. Think about the time that you'll be saving from running back and forth to the rental place, Yeah, it's convenient. It's their machine. If it breaks, it's on them. But once again, you only get 8 hours with it. So if you pick it up in the morning, it's got to be there by the end of the day and or the following morning, which costs time. Time is money. Place could be 30 minutes each way from where you're working. And if you take an hour to pick it up the first morning and then an hour to drop it off, there's 2 hours. And if you times that by, hey, I rent one of these things 3 times a month, there's 6 hours of burned time that if you owned your own, you could have been using it for those 6 hours versus driving around to go pick it up.
And then really after that, it breaks down to the numbers. How much are you spending to rent it every single time added up per month versus what's the cost of just financing it to own it?
These things are expensive, but there are good deals from dealerships. The shortage, there was a big shortage on these things during COVID. It's starting to get a little bit better now. But let's say, for example, this one right here, brand new, I think is 50 to 55,000. I think it's somewhere in the 50s. I got this for $38,000, 2020, and it only had, like I said, 200 hours on it. So it was a good deal because a new one wasn't available, and I was able to finance it for, God, it wasn't $700 a month. It was like $650, $665 a month to rent this machine. As you can tell, we haven't used it that much. It's only been 200 hours over 2 years, but I would have spent more monthly on renting a machine. So even if I only used it twice a month, it would cost $300 each time, so $600 a month or $665. You can own it. I'd rather have it sitting in the driveway ready to go to work. So I made the decision to pull the plug, stop renting one, and just own my own. The maintenance is on me now. Anything that breaks down is on me. That's out of warranty now. I had the warranty at the time for the first year or year and a half. But hey, if you're renting something twice a month and you're thinking, okay, it's just going to be for the first couple months out of the year and maybe for another month later in the year, maybe renting is your best option if you don't need it in the winter. We use this thing in the winter for working on equipment, picking stuff up. So we use this thing year round, even though the hours don't reflect it. We turn it off as soon as we're done with it. So, I mean, that's pretty much to sum up when you should stop renting to buy. It just comes down to numbers, being smart with your business. It's a good tax write-off if you need one for your business versus renting. I mean, renting is tax deductible, but you get a good write-off if you buy the machine new, pre-owned, if you buy it versus rent it. What else?
I just want to say, when you do go into if you're going to a dealer and you're buying a used one or a new one or whatever, definitely talk to them and make sure you feel comfortable. You establish a relationship with whoever's selling you the machine, because for this one, we know that we bought this used, they knew that it was in good shape. They knew they were selling us a good machine that we could get in. Just like with our lawnmowers and stuff, when we have a good relationship with the dealers there, it goes a long way, because they're the ones who are selling you the equipment that they are going to be standing behind, and you can trust them if you can take your word on it and you've built a relationship with them.
Yeah, and to touch on that too, this was from the Kubota dealer, like we said, but it was rented out from the Kubota dealer directly. So they were in charge of everything maintenance-wise. They're offering the warranty to cover themselves in case anything happens to it once they sell it to me. If you're buying it from a regular rental center, that's a whole different thing, because people are renting this thing and they're jumping in it. And for example, all right, I got 8 hours to put on the hour meter on this thing. So as soon as I step off, I'm going to turn it off. And they're going to start, stop all day long so they get as much hours. They might work with it for 15 hours out of the day lengthwise, but they're continually turning the key on, off, which is some wear items, like obviously the starter. It's not too big of a deal, but you want to just make sure that the hour meter works. If you're buying it from a rental place, you know people are renting something like this. They don't know how to use it. They're digging rocks probably 10 times the size as this. They're probably sliding down the hill, crashing into stuff. I mean, you get the point. If
it's not their machine, yeah, they don't care.
It's homeowners renting it from a place. Okay, I'm going to use it for the day. I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. It's not really supposed to drive up that hill and pick that giant, huge rock up, but I'm going to do it anyway because I get to return it in 8 hours as long as I don't break it, as long as nothing happens to it. So you have to be very careful when you're renting pretty much anything from just a standard rental place. Yeah, that has its big positives with renting. Just to start with, like we said, comes down to money, but convenience too. If you're renting multiple different things, like you need a skid steer and this, and you're just starting out, yeah, rent it for a little while, because you need both machines. You don't have enough capital built up in your business to buy both of them right off the bat, or even maybe if you buy one of them, it's going to completely wipe your bank account out. You're not going to have anything left. You're going to be starving for money. Maybe it is a good idea to keep renting it while you're letting the customers you're doing the job for pay for the rental bill if it's built into your price. But how do you get to the point of being able to finance? You have to build up good credit. You have to have a good credit score. You have to make sure you pay all your credit cards on time, your personal and business credit card. If you have a mortgage, just bills. Make sure it's all paid on time. You have a good score, will be a lower interest rate. And yeah, like Jim said, establish a relationship with the dealer that you're buying this from. Make them remember your name, because if you're buying an excavator, you're not going to stop there. You're going to be back in another couple years buying a skid steer, a backhoe, a front loader, something. You're going to be back buying a Kubota mower. Who knows? You could be buying anything from them. So establish a good relationship. They'll remember your name, and when you go back in there, everything's already saved in the computer. So it's funny. When I bought the KX040, it was a little bit too big for me 5 or 6 years ago, 2015, so like 7-8 years ago. I went to get approved for the financing for this. They already had all my stuff saved in the computer. Called them up and basically said, you're approved within 5 minutes, and all I had to do was drive up and pick it up pretty much and just make sure it was what I wanted. But just it goes back to making a good relationship with the dealer.
I also just want to throw something in. This isn't the type of machine that you go and buy and you don't have the use for it, because you're never going to be able to make it back. You need to buy this when you are ready for it. Don't be the young guy who goes out and finances everything, because you'll be turning that machine right back in when you can't afford the payment.
And guess who the young guy was?
It was you.
It was me. I went out and I bought a brand new 2015 Ford F550, the 6.7 diesel in it. And then a month later, I bought a Kubota KX040 excavator, all enclosed, every single attachment and bucket possible, heat, AC, radio, tinted the whole windows, did everything to it. And between the two of those, I think it was $160,000 in debt just between, and the trailer I had to buy brand new. I was like $180,000 in debt between the three items right there. A year or two went by and I realized, wow, I used the dump truck, but the excavator is not getting used every day like it should, because I'm still cutting lawns by myself. Ended up selling the excavator back to the Kubota dealer, and ended up selling the dump truck back because I thought a house was more important than these two pieces of equipment that I didn't need.
So then you got your first house.
I got my first house, went back to renting the excavator for the first 5 or 6 months after buying a house, and was able to build up enough capital to be able to purchase this. And this one's never going for sale ever again. But just downgraded the 6.7 diesel F550 is a different story. That's why we went back to our 7.3s, because they're maintenance free after you change the oil and do everything you have to do, which that video is coming out soon.
And then also one other thing I just want to point out too is that Steve's story there might sound, oh, he just brought it back, got all his money back, but no, he bought a new one, and as soon as you take it off the lot, it's worth way less. You don't get all that money back.
Yep. I didn't lose a ton of money, but I still lost money. It was just a stupid thing that a 21-year-old kid could have done back then. But hey,
That's why we're here making the video now.
Don't be ashamed to buy an excavator for $7,000 or $8,000 that has 3,000 hours on it. Maybe it needs tracks, but you can get by with it for a year or two. It comes down to putting money in your pocket and making money. So if you're going to buy that machine for $8 grand, guess what? You own it. You don't have to make any payments on it. You maybe have to adjust the tracks and check some things. Even with bad seals, these things might seep a little oil. You can still use them. It's all up to what you want to do with it. You want to go to the job site, do what it's intended to do, and come home and charge the client for the work you did done and make money. That's pretty much why you're doing all this. It was back then to look pretty and look cool when you're a young kid, buying all the fancy equipment and stuff. Finance it and then realize, oh my god, these payments are due every month. I don't know, between the dump truck, the trailer, and the excavator back then, it was like $2,100 a month just between the three pieces of equipment. I'm thinking, all right, I want to move out. I'm 22 now, 21. It's time to move out. I could buy this house and the mortgage would be $2,000 a month. So if I get rid of these three pieces of equipment and buy some used stuff and maybe rent the excavator for now, I could have a house instead of the equipment and still have a dump truck and get done what I have to get done, but just not look as pretty. If you're starting out and you want to finance it, I mean, we're not telling you not to. It'll be a brand new machine. It'll be reliable. If you're going to use it every day and make money, wonderful. For us, I didn't need a new machine. I got a pre-owned one. I was able to save 10 to 12 grand right off the sticker price by only having a couple hundred hours on it. But just getting off topic a little bit, this is what you need to look for when you're looking at a mini excavator, a big excavator. They're all the same. You need to look at the engine, the hydraulics, the tracks, the seals, the hoses, and then just general maintenance wear items. Hopefully this video helped you guys. Hopefully it's going to make a good decision whether you're going to continue renting, or if you're going to go pull the plug and purchase one. Or I don't know, hopefully this might even help if you're looking to buy a skid steer too, which we'll make a video on that at another time. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. You have anything to add? Yeah,
I just want to say, picture this as just a reinvestment into your business. Is it going to make sense for your business in the long run? Obviously this is a big purchase. You're building up even more credit when you do something like this, if you are going to finance it or whatnot. But this is a perfect example of reinvesting in your business. Make sure that's going to be worth your while and your business is worthwhile.
And make sure you bring your dog with you to look at the piece of equipment, because he or she will be able to tell you if it's a good purchase or not. But, that'll wrap this one up. I hope you guys got something out of this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and check out some more videos for this machine working.